Do you want to have a chair? Bring it somewhere.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And
As you wish.
And yes, some people didn't know the session started. Maybe it was to just tell them.
These are loud, I can scream.
I mean, yeah, sure.
The panel is about to start!
Yeah, okay. Alright guys, so now we will have a panel discussion about beyond installs optimizing user acquisition campaigns. And for that we will have the moderator Javier Garcia leading this discussion. Please join me in welcoming him. So,
well, good morning everyone. So yeah, Javier Garcia. I work at Smadex and as a creative team, leading the creative studio. Today we're gonna have a discussion about UA optimizing UA campaigns. So yeah, we'll first let the panelists introduce themselves, if that's okay. Want to start this?
Yes, sure. So hi everyone, I'm Jesse Lempiäinen. Born and raised in Finland, so I've done my 5 years at the Rovio, much like everyone who's ever worked in gaming and been in Finland. Back there I was a product marketing manager, so I was doing a lot of different creative strategies and therefore also a lot of things related to user acquisition and marketing in general, mainly with Meta and other self-attributing networks, so that's mostly where my knowledge is. After that I jumped the ship and we founded a new company called Geeklab, where we help customers to and mobile game developers to optimize their user acquisition campaigns by fixing the App Store. And just 3 weeks ago, we actually released a new tool that's a attribution and analytics tool for iOS, essentially solving scan. So yeah, happy to talk about UA here today, mostly knowledgeable of self-attributing networks, but yeah.
Solving scan, that's a bold statement. I have to talk to you. So I'm Dan Zadniker from Outfit 7. We're mostly known for our IP Talking Tom. Been here for 5 years now, and I'm leading a UA team and everything that comes with it. Creatives, UA team, ASO, and so on.
Hello, so I'm Gonca Densler Kurdu. I've been working at AppLovin as Senior Business Development Analyst for the past 3 years now, and a little bit of what we do, well, we build technologies to help businesses to connect to their ideal clients, and we also build platforms for those businesses to grow and monetize those global audiences.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm Jevdet, I'm from North Cyprus. I've been all around the world, studying, doing stuff, and got into digital marketing as within the branding side of things, and then I wanted to jump ship to the performance side, and I think I chose the best one to do so. I joined to App Samurai, where I started doing working with rewarded user acquisition channels, and then joined Gamelight, where we do the same with a lot of different mechanics added to the platform. It's super exciting for me. I'm learning a lot of new stuff as we come up with new features, and in general, I'm enjoying a lot what I'm doing right now.
Hello everybody, my name is Milan, I'm from Slovakia, and I have background in user acquisition. In my previous job at the Superscale, I ran UA and creative teams where we ran campaigns for 70+ titles from big to small studios and publishers. After almost 6 years, I also jumped the ship, as many here, and together with two of my friends, we founded AdSpawn, which is basically an AI agency focusing on creative work. So yeah, we also just released app icon generation yesterday, so if you want cool app icons, go there. And I'm happy to talk about anything UA and creative related.
Okay, that's great to know because we're going to talk exactly about that. So yeah, let's introduce then the first topic that I wanted to talk about. So as we're talking about UA and creatives, my first question for the panelists would be how do we align these two teams, the UA and the creative team, to meet the campaign goals? And also, if you wanted to give us like any good practices or tips when it comes to A/B testing to improve engagement metrics and other KPIs. We can do a round, yeah.
Awesome. So back at Rovio, we tried pretty much everything from having like a centralized creative team to having like creative teams within the actual game teams themselves and everything in between, outsourcing and everything. And now also then with Geeklab, we've seen like countless companies, big and small as well, to try to fix the same issue of being able to produce a ton of creatives fast and creatives that actually work. And I'd say that, like, from my experience, the best team setups have been where that team is as tight as possible. So essentially, then like one artist that's skilled in Unity and can capture directly from the engine, and one motion graphic artist and so on, to be able to build creative super fast and iterate fast. Those have been the most successful ones. These days we have AI tools as well, so I'm sure we're going to hear more about those, but if it's more traditional and actually human work, so the closer to the team, I'd say the better.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when it comes to cooperating with UA team and creative teams, we learned that it's not going to be a process that's going to happen overnight, but like educating creatives, so creative team about importance of creatives, how they behave on different networks, so that they understand some technicalities of it, not all of them, obviously, and vice versa, educating UA managers about creatives, about what the artist's idea is, why do they think that they will work, because like artists tend to be a bit more on a, let's say, wild side, whereas UA managers just want to see performance, right? And sometimes the best path forward is something together, not both extremes. So yeah, a lot of conversations, a lot of talks about hypotheses, why something works, why we think that something should work, and then analyzing, like, in all honesty, the results, right? So if something was hypothesized is going to work really well and that it didn't, let's like be honest about it, and okay, it didn't work, on to the next one. And for that, I think that a lot of trust has to be built, because between UA and creative team, and that's probably the biggest takeaway I would take here. So trust between UA and a creative team, and education of both teams about the processes on both sides.
What we've seen with our client, with our advertisers, is that aligning your UA and creative teams requires understanding the impact of using real gameplay creatives versus misleading ones. Misleading in the sense that those creatives do not necessarily reflect the true gameplay. Well, true gameplay creatives might result in much higher CPIs, but then the LTV and retention performance of those users is generally much stronger. Well, misleading ones, they might yield much lower CPIs, but this could come at the cost of lower retention rate. So it all comes down to finding the right balance between acquiring users with compelling, appealing creatives, and then retaining them with products that meet those expectations while optimizing the cost of acquisition. Speaking of best practices, some of our platform-wide best practices, especially after the release of our new algorithm, AdSpawn 2, which is not quite new anymore. It's been like quite some time indeed, like over 1.5 years probably. Well, our advertisers, they have the option to unlock new audiences by finding new winning creative sets. As a general best practice, well, we recommend our advertisers refreshing creatives at least once per week, if not more. And every time they upload new creatives, well, our system pretty much just tests them against the top winning ones and then decides on the next winning creative sets by evaluating metrics such as IR, that is install rate, and other post-install metrics depending on the advanced campaign type. So you don't need to intervene manually at all. Our system does it for you. Of course, there are some tips and tricks to improve engagement rates. Playable ads are more like a must-have for hybrid and IAP-heavy titles. They tend to improve engagement rates quite a lot. And according to our Spark Labs, our internal creative team, Spark Labs wins, renovation and customization concepts have proven success so far, because the users like to have the option to customize their gameplay. If you check these platforms such as Sensor Tower, you might have noticed that those top impression receiving creatives of those top advertisers tend to be failure concepts. Because then again, failure concepts tend to convert much better than success concepts. The use of real-life people has also quite a positive impact on improving engagement rates, because psychologically, humans tend to recognize faces much easily than any other creative elements. We can have a more elaborated conversation after this panel, I guess, on this topic.
Thank you. First of all, I totally agree with everything you said, and I vouch for that. But specifically for Gamelight, what we do is we try to take the creative overload from the clients to help everything, the campaign setup and launch, to go a lot smoother. So what we do is we fetch the creatives directly from the store, which helps us with a couple of things. So seasonal changes or the creative updates that are being made to the store by the publishers, we directly get them and keep our advertising going on in real time with updated creatives. That obviously helps us a lot with cutting down on the operational work or any kind of changes being made. Assuming that the A/B testing is being done by the client, or they're choosing the best creatives for that time period, that is going to work best for them. And also we are coming up with new features as well with Gamelight that is going to be allowing us to have more and more creatives to be tested within our platform, and keeping in mind that it's a rewarded user acquisition platform, so users are very much intentionally coming on, and they're looking for different things within the platform, which allows them to understand the game more, understand what they're going to get more from that game, and obviously there's different creative strategies that's going to complement that, and we're going to be testing those, but right now what we're doing, and it's working very, very well for us, is to fetch all of the creatives automatically from the App Store, cutting a lot on creative overload from the clients, helping us to go as fast as we can and get the results that we're looking for.
All right, my turn. So I'll speak to you from the position of UA manager that I have experienced over the past couple of years. So the biggest mistake I've seen doing external and internal teams many times is that nobody's actually responsible for specific KPI when they do creative testing. You just run creatives and then you're like, oh, this didn't work. And nobody cares why or what's happening. So what you need to do, instead of what you don't need to do, you need to set up a specific person that will be responsible for creative testing in-house or external partner if you have some. This person will eventually may get fired if he gets a lot of bad concepts, because you need to keep in mind 90% of ad spend goes into 10% of ads. Majority of creatives will fail, and you want to lower this number, right? You want to have less and less failing creatives. So have the KPI. This KPI can be, it depends on what your goal is. It can be whatever, who creates CTA, CTRs, whatever your metric is. Just focus on that and say, okay, we want to hit this one, and let's chase this number. That's the first thing. The second thing is have the methodology of actually A/B testing. So what are you A/B testing, right? I just said about from the concept idea of the creative to then, okay, how do I test this creative? It's more like technical aspect. Do I test it on meta? Do I test it here and there? Which targeting? Ideally, you want to test it on your main market, on a little bit different optimization. That's my subjective favorite way to do that. But all in all, you need a responsible person that communicates with creative and UA team. You need to know what you are testing in the creative. Don't just test the creative, test concept, test gameplay, test whatever. And have the technical framework of testing as well. Where do you test? With that, you slowly build the methodology in-house that you know that you will be failing less and less, and you will learn what's failing and what's not. And don't be afraid to see like, okay, we are failing with this idea so many times, let's not do that. Try to track what's failing as well. Don't just say, this didn't work. Like, map, do the Excel sheet. These things didn't work. Awesome, let's not do them anymore. That's about it.
Can I add something? Yeah. So I totally agree. Like the responsibility one is the biggest one by far. So what we also did with education of creative team is also remove the responsibility about the creatives from UA manager to the creative developers themselves, right? So that's the biggest thing that like yielded the best results for us by far. And then yeah, additionally communication between the teams. I agree totally. The responsibility is by far.
And actually, regarding collaboration between teams, if you don't mind, I have a quick thing that came to my mind as well. How important it is and how you can actually yield good stuff. We were talking earlier about like back at Rovio, we had this game called Angry Birds Evolution. We're essentially trying to get lawsuits with that game. So we're like always like doing different types of IP collaborations. So we had like well, as an example, a Deadpool character. Well, it was called Darlene, but it was Deadpool Angry Birds. That's a case example where we were very, like the entire game team, UA team, creative, everyone was working together, and we were able to actually make one of the best ads that we ever had for a long time. Where first that Deadpool was picked because the movie was coming out, so that was trending, so it was a good thing to tap onto. And then I can't believe I'm doing this. So imagine a suit. We're trying to like make the Angry Birds brand very sort of well, to have the shock value, right? So you have a tight Deadpool suit, and the Angry Bird lets out a fart, and then the gas goes up to the top of the head and goes out. And at the same time also, like just the Instagram like stories became an ad placement. And what was new and novel in that one was that we always before used to like just click the ad, right? And that would launch the creative. But instead, in those stories, when you clicked, you moved to the next story, and instead what you had to do, you had to swipe up. So then we came up with this idea where that fart was going back up and down, and then there was a text that said like swipe up to let it out. And it was actually the best ad that we had for like years. Yeah, and it was just the result of collaboration between all these teams to get it there.
Who came up with this idea? Was it somebody from creative team or somebody from random team?
From legal.
I don't deny or admit anything.
Well, one thing as well. Like when you're talking, like he was talking about 90% of creatives fail, and that's really important to team for internalize, because all the time 90% of creatives will fail, and like to internalize that like it's a process. It's gonna be iterative process, and you're gonna learn with it, and so on and so on. Like it can be, it can kill a lot of spirits when you see over and over and over again how creatives are failing, and it can be hard. Like for that, like a bit of a motivation for team always comes in handy. So like it's hard, it is, but it's then repaid when you find a creative with a fart that's going to outperform anything else. So yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, great. Thank you for representing the creative here. Okay, great. Now that we brought some KPIs into the conversation, CPIs and so on, and also about educating the different teams. My next question for you is like, so how do we prioritize the different KPIs like the installs, lifetime value throughout the whole life cycle of the game, so you're not going to have the same strategy from the launch to the maturity of the game. So yeah, if you could give us some insights into this.
I can start. Yeah, for sure. So from a network perspective, well, AppLovin has historically been a platform to scale rather than a platform to soft launch titles. But after the launch of our new algorithm, which I previously mentioned, AdSpawn 2, we are now able to learn much quicker and able to price those users much efficiently. So majority of our advertisers started to use our platform to soft launch their titles as well. This is indeed a great example to how UA drives product decisions, because those product teams get to see data from platforms such as AppLovin, which will constitute a great portion of total installs when they are ready to fully scale their title in the long run. In early product stages, such as soft launch, we help our advertisers in determining their KPIs in line with category benchmarks. By doing so, they have a rough estimate of like the KPIs they should be aiming for, such as CPI, retention rate, or LTV. In early product stages, again like soft launch, break-even windows aren't necessarily a central KPI, because like the product itself might not have enough content. So we might see like strong early KPIs, like strong early retention rates, LTVs, but because there isn't enough content, later cohorts might represent weaker retention rate or LTVs. In such cases, our advertisers have the option to run advanced campaigns with day zero optimization windows. Day zero ad ROAS for ad-heavy titles, day zero blended ROAS for hybrid titles, and day zero IAP ROAS for IAP-heavy titles. In later product stages, as the product receives some more content, then the break-even windows, they also get expanded, and we also expand our optimization windows with windows such as day 7 or day 28. Day 7 windows on our platform have been live with IAP ROAS campaigns for some time now. And a few months ago, we released Day 7 Ad ROAS and Blended ROAS campaigns, along with Day 28 IAP ROAS campaigns. And only last week, we launched the Day 7 Day 28 Ad ROAS campaigns. And I mean, some of our advertisers, like they can also share their own experiences, observations with those campaigns. But as the optimization window length suggests, those day 7 and day 28 campaigns, they tend to bring in users with much stronger long-term retention rates and then multipliers. So they allow our advertisers to afford lower ROAS values on early cohorts, and then to relax their goals, right? And by doing so, they can just max out their scale on our platform.
Yeah, thank you. I can go next for this one. We are, as I said, like rewarded user acquisition platform, and initially, the most important thing for us is that we have a good connection with our user base, and then we get information from our user base while they're registering to our platforms, which we leverage for pre-install optimizations that is done by the Gamelight AI. So it's very important for us to find the highest quality user that is going to bring us the KPIs that our clients are looking for. And the algorithm takes in all of these information, taking into account if the game is in the soft launch or whatever. Taking everything into account and trying to do the pre-install optimization and doing the best recommendation for the best user that the algorithm thinks that is going to bring us the best results. And the optimizations does not end there with the algorithm, it's totally autonomous. What happens is that the algorithm keeps learning from the results that they're getting through the campaign while the campaign is running, and then optimizes the rewarding structure accordingly that is going to help us reach the KPIs of the client. And usually what we focus on is ROAS, but obviously we take into account the retention rates or whatever else soft KPIs the client might have. And what we do is that we have a blend of the autonomous AI optimization as well as we are working as account managers to help each title specifically with our own recommendations, what we think is going to work best for them within our platforms. And again, like majority of the optimizations are done autonomously, so it's not much of an operational work for, we do have our own self dashboard, but it's not much of a work for our clients and us account managers, because it's helping us reach our KPIs, reach the KPIs of the clients that they're looking for. And basically, to this day, we're very successful with this and we're very proud of it. But obviously, there's always room for improvement, and we're doing it as we do more and the algorithm learns more. We have more data and the optimizations are getting more and more accurate in the end. But again, I cannot stress enough the factor that pre-install optimizations are a huge deal when it comes to recommending a user base that are very much intentionally there to be recommended the titles. And they're looking for them, and they're looking for the titles that they think they're going to enjoy the most and engage for the longest term. And the algorithm helps us with finding the best titles, best recommendations for each user, and the best rewarding structure that is going to help them, stay motivated, help us to reach our KPIs, and the rest is all easy, let's say.
All right, so regarding the KPIs, retention is the king. I think there is no doubt about that. Only time when it's not a king and it's not like pushing every other KPIs is in concept stage. So you have a lot of time, resources, you can test which type of the concept you want to go with developing the game. So this is like pre-soft launch. This is where you just try and see what type of concept is sexy for a market. You do marketability testing. Geeklab actually can help with that. I used it many times. This is where you don't care about retention. If you can find a concept, you go to the soft launch. This is where your retention becomes a king. Hopefully it's good. Then the LTV and all other metrics come into place. The one thing I have to say, for God's sake, don't be 100% reliable and compare yourself with the market benchmarks. They are cool to navigate, kind of, okay, this is maybe what I might hit. But even within the same genre, during the same seasonality, the art style can be different, and now suddenly you have 10 times higher CPI. But it's not a big deal because you might have higher LTV, right? So, like, initially good to like check the KPIs and benchmarks of the market, but then find your own benchmarks and set your own benchmarks from the early test that you find.
Agree 100%. We know the scary word golden cohort, which is typically, specifically in the concept testing phase, we've often been asked the question like, oh, it's super nice, like we're getting like low CPIs, how does this scale? Well, honestly, I don't know. And you don't know before you spend $3 million on it, then you know like how much it scales. There's some early indicators that will show some of the stuff, but you don't know before you scale. And exactly, so during tech launch, it's fine to you just need users. So your main KPI is to get as many users as possible, as cheaply as possible and maybe even as low end devices as possible to see kind of try to get as many crashes as possible. Well, maybe not. But I would say that agree. Retention is key, and we also there was discussion about misleading ads earlier too. So what we often use is installs multiplied by day one retention, kind of to have, the IPM multiplied by the day one retention. So installs per mil multiplied by the day one retention, because then in that case you'll take into account the effectiveness of the ads themselves. So if you do misleading ads and you get like extremely low CPI, so then you will see that in that IPM metric. But then you can have misleading ads that are selling the fantasy of the game that you're having. So it can be that those still have nice retention as well. So then multiplying that with day one retention, you'll kind of have both of these metrics weighted in. And I'd say that's typically around like soft launch as well, something that's already a valuable metric because you should have more or less enough content to have players play for at least 2-3 days or so. And then obviously as the game matures and you have more content and you can actually start to optimize towards value, so then that's kind of a KPI that you can kind of optimize towards. But yeah, if there's one takeaway, forget that Deadpool acting right there. Take installs, IPM multiplied by day one retention. That's the key metric, North Star metric.
Yeah, that's what we do as well. But I would break it down maybe not first into phases. First, one is product goals in soft launch and global launch, and then to maturity, and then the other one is also distribution goals, right? Because these two teams have a bit of different responsibilities, and with like clear goals, obviously the jobs get a bit easier, and the communication between product and distribution teams is also really key here. So this is another one, and I would break it down in 3 phases when it comes to, let's say, life cycle of a game or of a product. So first, obviously, soft launch here, at least for us, is a bit of different than others. For us, volume is the key, and yeah, IPM is the biggest metric, and retention is another one, and this equation that yes, I mentioned, it's exactly the same one that we use as well. And this is then, yeah, the best KPI moving forward for us towards the global launch. And in global launch, we focus on volume and go all in everywhere. And I don't agree that AppLovin is not, what did you say at the beginning? It's not for launch. It's perfectly fine working for us as well. So it's big when it comes to global launches. So yeah, seeing or having a clear soft launch simulation on your selected markets that would then kind of project the global launch as best as possible is one of the key goals for us in soft launch, I would say. And maturity, everybody else mentioned, so moving that needle up when it comes to profitability, that's it.
Okay, great. Then now let's talk a little bit about profitability and about money. And my question for you is, so how do we do to balance, the ROAS of a campaign against, the full ROI, taking into account, things like the creative production, which is, huge and so on. And I would also like to hear, as we have some people that working with AI tools, if you have any, have you tested any AI tools, or has it helped bring down these production costs and so on?
Yeah. Can I start? Okay, thanks. So yeah, that's a really good point. So ROI versus ROAS is really important, especially for us. It became in big campaigns, for example. Previous year we had 10 years of My Talking Tom, and we collaborated with Mr. Beast. It was a huge campaign for us in investment terms and in goals terms. And there it was basically really clear what ROAS meant and what ROI as a whole, and learning to find every single cost that is attributed to this campaign is actually kind of hard. It's not really that simple. One, how are you measuring all the hours that went into it on a product side, on distribution side, and everywhere else? So this is one thing, but it's a good approximate, right? So bringing a whole effort into equation is a bit different than ROAS, and it's really important, probably especially in larger companies where a lot of let's say efforts get lost in some sense, because it's a big effort as a whole. And I think it's really important that you tie together all the costs and then do an honest, let's say, look in the mirror, how did we do? So yeah, ROAS versus ROI. But when it comes to AI for us, because of the IP sensitivity and everything, we are kind of handicapped when it comes to this. We can do obviously closed models that are not connected to open LLMs and so on, and we are training those. But we are not at the point yet where we would be like confident enough to say like we are really bringing down the costs of creatives and so on. Some attempts with some simple, let's say, breakdown of creatives, especially on static ones. We can do a bit of a background changing and so on, but that's really limited and it's not really bringing down costs a lot. So, but I believe that the future will bring that, as we spoke before.
Yeah, so it's kind of a short one. Specifically talking about Gamelight, there's no hidden costs for us, so the real return on investment will be the ROAS, because there's no operational cost and there's no creative costs or anything, because that's where our AI comes in and helps us with, you know, the biggest pain point, cutting down on the operational work on the creative side, as well as since we get the creatives directly from the store, and also analyzing and optimizing the campaigns, the AI helps us a lot with that as well. So ultimately, the ROAS is going to be the real return on investment, specifically for the Gamelight platform. And that's something it's very important for us. Obviously, we help with majority of the operations for our clients. We're dedicated account managers. We take care of the remainder of the operational work that is needed for campaign setup, launch, and, you know, creating the links and whatnot, helping the technical integrations and whatnot. We take it on our side. So probably cutting down on, well, majority of the costs on. So it will come back to, you know, the ROAS being the ROI. And yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
Let's mix this up completely. I'll go next. This ties back into the first question, the collaboration between teams. I think kind of the same mindset as the UA manager has, that looks completely at the return on ad spend on every money that you pour in on ads. So you can apply the same logic then to and the mentality to the creative teams as well. And with that, as soon as you start to make a creative, think about how you can templatize that creative, how you can, you know, make it so that in the future you can change things rather fast and create iterations rather than completely like always having to spend again. If you're making like I'm not sure if we have anyone from Metacore here, but like they've done an amazing job with their like a beautiful like having Pedro Pascal in the ads and stuff like this. But even in those, like, think about when you storyboard those ads, think about like, okay, now that we're creating this entire story arc, how can we make it so that this is not only this 2-minute long advertisement that's going to be viewed as a 2-minute long short video, but maybe we can make it in such a way that out of that 2 minutes we'll be able to get and spur out like 50 different creatives, right? To lower the cost. And then like lastly regarding AI, well, I'll let Milan talk more because he knows a lot more. But again, I'd say like that won't be a replacement. That won't be anything. It's a tool. It's part of the toolbox that makes these things more resourceful and efficient. But yeah.
So I don't want to sound like repetitive, but as all my panelist peers, they've just explained well, balancing ROAS and ROI requires considering all costs, all associated costs, and not only the ad spend itself, right? And this is more like an advertiser side equation that us as networks, we do not necessarily have visibility into. And well, Dejan from Outfit 7, he explained it quite well indeed. But when it comes to like production costs, keeping our internal creative team, Spark Labs, in mind, well, they use mini AI tools, generative AI tools at various stages of creative production. From script writing to audio production, to voiceover production, visual productions. And those AI tools, well, generative AI tools, they tend to, well, produce the creative assets that fit precisely to their needs. And they tend to be free of charge, which make them, again, like more of a budget-friendly option compared to other stock creative assets that are rather expensive to purchase for commercial use. Generative AI tools, or like AI tools in general, they also speed up the process of determining the creative elements that resonate with your audience, which again makes it much faster and makes it like possible to come up with data-backed analysis. So, well, in short, yes, AI tools do help speed up workflows and decrease expenses.
Alright, so the first quick ROI versus ROAS. So the ROAS is important if you're a UA manager, you solely focus on that, that's your job, that's right. In my opinion, if you want to grow professionally, you should start taking care of ROI. No need, like you can take care of ROAS, fine, we do that. You can optimize it forever, it's fine. But you will grow professionally if you start looking at these hidden costs, they're everywhere. And then as you start thinking about other teams, you know, about businesses, about investments and blah, 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 you will end up going crazy a little bit. So yeah, that's ROI versus ROAS, not the AI. I like to compare it, I think I said it there before the panel, same with the, almost nobody was a content creator 20 years ago, now everybody is content creator. Like, you put stories, you check, you know, influencers, they're everywhere. It's gonna be the same thing, it's almost the same thing with the AI, now everybody's artist, right? Like, you go anywhere, you create something. I have no idea how to draw something. I have no idea how to use a Photoshop, to be honest. And now suddenly I'm creating these models, I'm making visuals, I'm making videos, you know, I try to automate it with my friends. It's just gonna level up the playing field. Everybody's going to use the AI tool. People who will lose the jobs are the ones that will not use the AI tools, to be honest. And it's just, in the end, I believe it will end up in increased creativity, human creativity. You will feel that, oh, this is made purely with AI, there is nothing new about it, I've seen this concept 20 times already today. What you will be interested in, the audience of your games will be interested in something new, something cool. So again, you will be a content creator even if you have no idea how to, if you're a graphic artist, but AI tools are there, they're gonna get better. Last year we were making fun of 6 fingers on images. Today we're talking already about, yeah, the IP is not there yet, I'm not sure how to use it right, and we are trying to make gameplay videos with the AI. I have no idea where it's gonna be next year or 2 years later, but I honestly think it's underhyped. And it's just here to stay, and all of us here, I'm pretty sure we're all gonna use AI tools for different things.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, for sure. AI is gonna, it's gonna stay, and it's gonna improve. So yeah, talking about the future, and I would please ask you to be brief, because I wanted to, leave some space for questions. So yeah, if you could just give us, some ongoing or future trends that you think will be shaping, the UA creatives landscape in the future. Yeah.
I'll be super brief. Okay, so I think, I can screen as well. But so yeah, I think that with great tools, with AI like yours, then essentially we're gonna reach a point where it's gonna be very, very saturated because everyone can create a lot more and better quality stuff, right? So all of a sudden, it's gonna get a lot more saturated, which then leaves it to be, in my view, very good advantage for companies like yours, where you have a strong IP. It's something that's, it's harder. The impact of that IP will be just bigger and better in that saturated era, I'd say. What do you guys think?
I tend to give more of an advantage to little ones that are not yet made, because they will be able to iterate creatives much faster than us that are kind of worried about our IP and so on. And they can have a year or two ahead in AI and in building processes around AI and so on. So little ones can be faster and they can leverage this one because the market itself is obviously inclined towards us, to bigger ones that are on the market for much longer than new companies. So that's one. And it's going to be, when it comes to AI, when it comes to the future, it's going to be AI, obviously. One is going to improve automation, other is gonna improve iteration and creation. And I believe it's gonna be much more, people will be much more creative than before, because not everybody has the skills to create something with their hands, to draw, whereas everybody can write, or not everybody, but most of us can write and can prompt. And this way we can express our creativity the way we were not able before. And that's what I mean, that's why I think that creativity is gonna be better in the future with AI.
In this
This is what it is.
All right.
At the
So,
end.
well, in this competitive market, I do agree with you. Well, creatives will be the way to go if you want to create a competitive advantage, especially when the network's algorithms, they become more and more automated and dynamic. But from a product perspective, for me, the short answer would be segmentation. With the increased use of real-time data and user-level signals, publishers, they've recently started customizing their user bases game experience. I believe this term will become like one of the new buzz terms, if not the one already. Well, how can I explain? For instance, if a user is acquired from an AdROS campaign, then you don't necessarily need to have an ad gate. You can just start showing ads as early as day 0 or day 1. If a user is acquired from an AppROS campaign, then maybe your ad gate might be a little longer, and then you can make your levels much harder so that you create this purchase behavior. You prompt this purchase behavior. And by doing so, like, publishers will simply just maximize their ARPDO. And I think, well, segmentation will become more like a central topic to marketing teams' discussions going forward.
Thank you. So, again, specifically talking about rewarded user acquisition channels, keeping in mind that this sector is growing very fast, it's like going to a restaurant and then receiving a wine list of 1,000 wines. Rather than that, you know, you have the person who's responsible and comes up to you and, you know, recommends you which wine to go for with your food. I think that resonates very much with the rewarded user acquisition channels, because the creatives are going to have a huge impact on reaching the users and, you know, converting the specific users, especially with the very highly targeted recommendations that are being done. As a gamer myself, I'm looking for different kind of creatives within different kind of titles. So with some titles, I just want to see the gameplay. So with some titles, I really want to focus more on the lore side of things. So the gameplay is not that important, but the lore is very important. And with the AI, you know, having the ability to come up with those kind of different diverse creatives in real time, real fast, is, I think, going to have a huge impact within the rewarded user acquisition channels, especially keeping in mind that, you know, even a single user might have diverse opinions on different kind of titles, even though you're targeting them, you know, in a very accurate fashion. Then again, the creatives are going to be very important on conveying what actually the user is looking for from a title. Like myself, if you're going to focus on gameplay, you focus on gameplay with some titles. You focus on lore with some titles. The gameplay does not matter that much. So I think that's going to be a very effective and a kind of the trend that I think I see for AI going forward, especially regarding the rewarded user acquisition channels.
Cool, and I'll expand on that a little bit. But essentially what I said, everybody will start using AI, so first of all, some little prompting will not be enough. You'll be just like, okay, everybody else. So now you need to learn about outbaiting and, you know, seeds and configurations and whatnot. If you want to do that, you can do that. If not, then you can have somebody who's expert in that field, in-house or externally. But then, in terms of the creative strategy, I believe everybody will be towards this branded way of making creatives. That means communicating how you stand out with your game, instead of like just doing crazy amount of iteration because everybody's going to do that. So if everybody's going to do that and everybody's trying to be awesome, nobody's awesome. So in that sense, you will be like, I don't know, when we say fast food, 90% of people think of McDonald's, right? I think games will try to do that on App Store, whereas, okay, I'm a match 3 game. Like, remember me and maybe 2 other competitors that are match 3. Okay, now I need to communicate. I'm super awesome match 3 with these cute little bunnies or whatever, right? Like, you will try to get into the head of the audience through this branding, almost traditional branding communication. And yeah, again, everybody will use AI. It means you'll need to figure out this new human creativity of how to touch towards your audience.
And TikTok will be banned in USA.
That's true.
That's true. Is it true? One thing about the future as well. I think that also the regulation will come into play on multiple levels and standardization as well. Like our industry, games industry, mobile games industry is what, good 10 years, maybe 15. And I think that like we haven't really come to the point where the regulation and standardization is going to happen. So yeah, that's also the future.
Okay, then we have 10 minutes left. Just wanted to know if anyone wanted to ask anything to our panelists. If anyone has any questions. Then, well, thank you all for your insights, and thank you all for attending. Let's see you around.
Thank you.
Thank you.